Welcome back. You're watching News Center with me, Ashmat Kumar. Now, telecom companies have long been demanding that OTT or over-the-top players like WhatsApp, Hike, Messenger should be brought under the same regulatory framework. Telcos have long argued that these OTT players get a free ride on telecom networks without any regulatory or compliance burden. Government has responded to this demand. The draft telecom bill now recognizes internet-based communication services like messaging, emails, video calling as telecom services. So even these OTT players will now have to apply before the DOT for a license. Now, OTT industry has cautioned, has expressed concern that this could hurt innovation and competition. But the bill is still in the draft stage and is still open to public comments. To get the two competing perspectives, we have with us Lieutenant General Dr. S.P. Kochhar from the COAI. He will be giving us the views of the telecom players. Also joining us is Mr. TV Ramachandran of Broadband India Forum, or BIF. He will be joining us to highlight the concerns expressed by the OTT players. Lieutenant General Kochhar, let me come to you. This has been a long-standing demand. We finally see it reflected as a part of the draft bill. But the feedback that the government has been getting is that this will hurt innovation, this will hurt competition. Your first thoughts?
Ashwin, good afternoon. Firstly, it's very nice to be here on this show. And better still, I'm there with a senior colleague, TV Ramachandran, who has migrated from COI to BIF. So he knows very well the issues of telecom. Okay, having said that, I think this is not a fair statement that is being made that will hurt innovation and competition. I don't understand how it will hurt innovation and competition. Everything should not be linked with money. Let me first speak. Some noise coming. Let me first speak not as DGCOI, but as an ex-army guy. I have seen in Kashmir people dying because messages coming on WhatsApp could never be tracked, could never be regulated, and we could never get back to the perpetuators. Is that what we want? Is that what we want under any guise? I'm sure it hurts me to see Indians dying, and we are here talking about bypassing security, if we may say so. It does not hurt innovation and competition. In fact, it improves innovation and competition, because if you have an identity and you have something which is linked to your identity and you wish to market that, to monetize that, if you do not have an identity, it's much more difficult. And people who are going into the market, he's talking about innovators, entrepreneurs, they require VC funding. So if they do not have a face, if they do not have a verified identity, who's going to fund them? So in fact, if there is no licensing and if there is no verification, then actually the competition and innovation. Those are the first thoughts.
Sure. Mr. Ramachandran, let me get your perspective in on this. As Lieutenant General Kochhar was pointing out, you've been on both sides. You've been with the COAI, now with the BIF. The first question to you is, the argument being put across is, same service, same rules. On the face of it, prima facie, it seems like a reasonable proposition. What are your quick thoughts on that?
Thank you, Smith. It's been very nice to be here, and I echo General Kochhar's comment. Very good to be with friends with him on this panel. But I've got some, respectfully, I've got some very different views. And yes, unlike him, I've seen both sides, so I can talk with confidence on that. First of all, I would like to clarify that what you said about free riding on the system, that's an absolute no to that. This is riding on the application layer. It's an internet app. And that has been eminently stated again and again by DOT as well as TRA since 2015. I don't want to take up time by quoting from those, but again and again they have said they are delivered from different layers. One is from app layer, one is from license layer. And this precludes the possibility of regulatory arbitrage arising from competition between the licensed service providers and OTT app providers. And that's a quote which I'm giving from OTT Committee on Net Neutrality 2015. So that's an absolute no. And if you go further, the latest BEREC ruling, the Bureau of European Regulators, and you would admit that they know more about this, having been longer in this game before us, they have stuck together, all the European regulators, and they flatly rejected this idea of pre-riding. They said, no, it's the latest one which is on record. And they have said that they are actually providing revenue to because of them, their app is there, they are creating the pull for broadband. So that app is driving the business of the OTTs, I mean, of the telcos. The telcos are the pipe. The pipe is useless if there is no content in it, if the relevant content is not in that. And OTTs provide the content. Both have their own roles. They have to play complementarily, not either this or that or trying to regulate. And about the regulation, I've got this, there's a very misleading thing going on from the telcos. These OTTs are already regulated by MeitY under the IT Act, and they also come under the CCI. So there's no question. Whatever you want to do, consider under that. We are not saying anything to any forward discussions on what needs to be done. If there are any concerns at all, definitely we'll be the first to say that. But absolutely, we're already under one regulation, under one ministry, under one department. So we said, do whatever you want under that. Don't bring in extra. Then that becomes a huge nightmare of regulations to adhere to. And that hurts in a...
Let me take that up with with Lieutenant General Kochhar as well. Lieutenant General Kochhar, strong arguments being made there that look, there is already regulation under the IT Act. There is, in fact, the growth of these OTT players only benefits the telecom industry because there's greater consumption of data. How would you respond to that? That the growth of the industry is directly linked. That these two players can grow together. It needn't be competing with each other in terms of the regulatory and compliance burden.
Okay. Now we are talking about OTT services which are akin to telecom services. The regulation which has been placed on telecom services has matured over 25 years. And 25 years, Mr. Ramachandran was part of the regulation and the policies which dictated telecom. And over a period of time that has matured because many eyes have seen it. It has gone iterations and finally it has come to stay. Now, if a similar service is provided by OTT or DTT or whatever acronym you have, and the service is the same, it is on internet protocol, it is voice over IP, which goes on the application layer and gets delivered to a subscriber, how is the service different? And why should then one person who's providing a service be subject to regulation, and the other person who is new in the field but is backed by big pockets, why should he get out of the ambit? This is one argument. The second argument is that the service which is being provided generates humongous amounts of profits for the people who are providing OTT, as Mr. Ramachandran himself said. Now, this revenue goes where? It goes into the company coffers which are abroad.
Sure.
They are deriving money by the subscriber base which is in India, by the eyeballs which they catch in India, because their maximum money comes, the entire money comes from advertisement. But that money, why can't that be shared with the Indian government for the betterment of the networks in India? That is not being done.
Interesting question. Interesting question.
The second
question. Let me, in fact, seek Mr. Ramachandran's view on that. Mr. Ramachandran, we're running out of time. I'll come to you for the final comment that the view that is being expressed is that, look, the regulatory burden casts a fiscal burden as well on these companies and that they're not taking upon themselves the burden of developing infrastructure. All of that is left to the telcos. So therefore, there is a need for parity to have a level playing field. That's the argument that Lieutenant General Kochhar is putting across.
Thank you, Ashmit. That's absolutely wrong again. I'm amused by this because, first of all, saying that same service, same rules does not apply. Just because a bullock cart, a bicycle, and a motor car are traveling on ground transportation, they give ground transportation service, all three of them. Are you saying that they must all be bound by the same traffic rules? That's ridiculous. Number two, to say that this is generating huge profits for this company or that is a very irrelevant statement. Anybody can innovate. The OTTs are giving free service to their subscribers. They are giving free service, I repeat, and they are generating data on the basis of which telcos are getting their business. So if they are actually doing a service to telcos, the telcos should pay them a service charge for that. And that's a third thing. Second thing. And thirdly, the fact that telcos and the level playing field should be there is again utterly wrong, because as per Article 14 of the Constitution, level playing field applies only to people in same circumstances. You can't call a level playing field between a sparrow and an eagle. Here, one has got exclusive privileges, huge privileges of spectrum, license-free license spectrum, of right of way, of interconnection, of numbering resources, and the other one has got none of that.
Sure.
So let me be very clear that we are not talking of the two on the same boat. They are completely
Sure, Mr.
different,
Ramachandran.
different games,
Sure, Mr.
and both
Ramachandran.
are needed for each other. Both are needed for the consumer. That's all I'm saying.
Sure, Mr. Ramachandran. Pressing arguments being made there. I'm sure Lieutenant General Kochhar would love to respond to that, but we're completely out of time. Lieutenant General Kochhar, of course, has been arguing that as far as spectrum and as far as exclusive access to infrastructure is concerned, the argument COAI has been making is that even the OTT players are free to do that. But clearly, of course, this is still in the domain of debate and speculation at this stage. The bill is still in the draft stage, but that's all the time that we have for. It's a wrap on this edition of News Center. I'd like to thank both of our panelists for sharing their thoughts and perspectives with us. But that's all the time that we have. News and updates continues right here on CNBC TV 18. Stay tuned.
Brought to you by